Welcome to the Jay Tyner Show, where we discuss all things wealth management and retirement planning. And as always, the goal of our team here at Semmax Financial Group is to help you focus more on your life and less on your money. And as a reminder, check with your current advisor, planner, CPA, and read our disclosure in the video description below before you do anything. Subscribe to this channel if you want to stay up to date on all of our new content. And by the way, if you have questions, or if you need a 15-minute free consultation, just visit semmax.com or call 336-856-0080.
The latest twist in the Great Resignation, retiring but delaying Social Security. All right, let's talk Social Security. Jay, I know you've got some thoughts on this.
Yeah, well, I'm like 2 years away, dude. You know, it's like this is right around the corner. How did this happen to me?
It just showed up out of nowhere, huh?
It showed up out of nowhere. No, I think over the pandemic and over the time frame of the last year or two, 18 months, whatever, couple of years, people have focused in on this. Can I retire early? All right, and that's a huge topic.
You know, I saw a number that said the number of retirees over the pandemic was double what the trend has been. You know, so if it had been 1 million people retiring, now it's 2. It's just it had doubled. So there's a lot of people that are now saying, okay, I can go ahead and turn in that pink slip, right?
So I think there's at least 5 or 6 things probably we should address when it comes to your Social Security, whether you take it, whether you delay it. Hey, let me tell you this. I had a lady came in, and she's still working. She's 65. She's able to start her Social Security. She hadn't started it yet. Her husband's working, has a pretty nice job, and they had really nothing saved for retirement. Now, this is an unusual situation. They didn't have anything saved for retirement, and there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't matter when you start, right? That's the key.
Right.
And so I said to her, why don't you go ahead and start your Social Security? It's about, say, $1,300 a month, round numbers, and go ahead and take the Social Security and then reinvest it. So say reinvest $1,000 or $1,100 a month for the next 60 months. You have a nice $125,000 nest egg.
Now, that's really interesting because a lot of people think, well, if I haven't had anything saved, all I have is Social Security, so they'd want to wait. So instead of $1,300 a month, they might get $1,500 a month. Or $2,000 a month, but you're saying go ahead. In this case,
in that case,
it might make sense to take it early.
Right, very specific to that person and what they were trying to accomplish. They did not have a nest egg, so very unique thing. They were in ministry work, and so again, each circumstance I think is different. And that's the point I wanted to make.
Right.
When it comes to Social Security, you can go online and you get 1.4 million Google things, and you can see all these calculators on how to do your Social Security. There's so much more to it than putting something into a calculator because Social Security is interrelated with everything else you do. You might have rental property. You might want to work part-time. You might want to retire early, but now what are you going to do about your health care? You got to pay for that, right? If you retire at 62, you turn on Social Security early, but you got to cover that time frame from there to 65. So again, all these different things are going in. What about your portfolio? Are you in a high tax bracket? Are you in a low? All of these things that just goes back to the importance of just not flipping a switch and saying, I'm starting Social Security. So a couple of these things would be delaying.
Okay.
All right. So let's say you can start Social Security at age 62 and get $1,000 a month. Let's just hypothetically.
Okay. So $1,000 a month,
$1,000 a month. All right.
Okay.
So you turn that Social Security on, and so for 12 months you get $1,000. Right. At the end of the year, you've received $12,000.
That's exactly
Now,
right.
let's do the opposite. Let's say you can do that, but you decide not to take and elect your Social Security check. So you're not going to do it. You're going to wait a whole year. It's going to roll up approximately...
It's about 8%.
8%. So you didn't get 12 checks of $1,000. You went a whole year. You did not get that $12,000. And now in the 13th month, you start Social Security, you're going to get about $1,080 a month.
Right. So you're saying how many months of that extra $80 does it take before I make up that $12,000 that I didn't get?
That's the break-even point.
Okay.
Right. And it's typically, 14 to 17 years before you get to the even point. Hey, I don't know I'm going to live 14 or 17 more years, right? So maybe I do want to start mine early. Or then there's a caveat of where you have a husband and a wife, or you have a spouse, and maybe the one spouse is going to get a much bigger check. And the other spouse is going to get a much smaller check. Nothing wrong with that. It's just the way kind of things work. How much they invested into the Social Security system, how long they worked, what kind of salaries they made, all that kind of. It's a formula, right?
Right.
But when you're looking at retirement and how to use your Social Security, I think the important thing here is to understand that if you start taking Social Security as a spouse, what is the other spouse doing with their Social Security, and how does it affect you? So give me a thought on that.
I feel like it may make sense in that case for the spouse with the lower Social Security check to go ahead and turn it on
early.
Right, to turn it on early. And then delay that larger Social Security check because, correct me if I'm wrong here, but if one spouse passes away, the surviving spouse keeps the higher of the two.
The key is they only get one
but
check.
They only get one.
They only get one check. You don't get two checks.
So it may not be theirs.
Yeah, so the key is to have the higher check.
Correct.
So if the lower check starts early, it's really not that much of a difference.
Yeah.
So
that makes
and what we're saying here is probably for most folks, it may make sense to start the one spouse's check that's lower, start that early, and the one that's a little higher, maybe wait, delay, and let that one grow.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if you both started Social Security at, say, 65, we're just arbitrarily making this number up, and say yours was $1,500 and his was $3,000, well, if you delayed a couple of years and his went to $3,500 or $4,000, or well, it won't go that high, but anyway, let's say it went up to $3,800, which is kind of
that's about the
end.
max.
That's about the max, right? $3,800. If he were to pass away, you get the $3,800. Right?
Correct.
So there is some thoughts and some reasoning to let that thing delay on certain circumstances.
Now, let me ask you this. What about the folks that say, well, wait a minute, Social Security is about to run out of money. Shouldn't I go ahead and get it out now? What about that thought process?
If that's in your gut, then get it out.
There you go. I think
get your check.
The thing I will say to that is, and this kind of circles back around, it's like when there's the two spouses, I think the delaying makes a lot of sense. When it's one person, maybe you should go ahead and take it out because that $12,000. Let's go back to that $1,000 a month figure, right? Because this was something that we didn't really touch on. Is from the beneficiary standpoint. If I'm not getting that $1,000 from Social Security, I'm having to take it from somewhere, right? Well, if something happens, if I'm on my own and something happens to me, the money that's in my account that goes to the kids, right? That goes to the loved ones. The money that's in Social Security that stays in the kitty, correct?
Yeah. So if you could have got 5 years of Social Security checks, you would have got that. It would have been in part of your estate, however
Correct.
you used it. If
Correct.
you spent it, it's spent. If you saved it, it's saved. But anyways, it's part of your estate. I've seen folks take a Social Security check and half of it, given to the grandkids, right? To help support them. They're in need, and mom can make that happen, or dad can make that happen. So again, and this isn't about how to game the system. This isn't that at all. So my mom, is living by herself. Dad died about 2.5 years ago, and she's living on roughly $1,000 a month. That's it, $1,000 a month. Mom's doing pretty good. Health is fair. So we're not, this isn't about how much you can make, right? Social Security was originally designed to help those that, in my opinion, help those that are that really need it.
Right.
Okay. So anyway, back to Social Security. I think right now what we're seeing a lot of people trying to retire early, and if they can, how to employ their Social Security into that formula on their plan. And I think that's a great way to sit down with your advisor if you don't have one, or if you need somebody to talk it out with. Because, again, getting online and getting these calculators are great, but, you can't talk back to a calculator, and the calculator's not talking back to you, right?
That's true. And the calculator's not going to think about
collaboration.
Yeah, it's not going to think about the other 9 accounts you have and how it all folds in.
And how it all folds in. So I think it's really good in this case that if you're trying to understand how to utilize Social Security in your overall planning for you and your family, sit down with an advisor that can talk through some of these things. Any last-minute parting thoughts?
I would just say I think it's you really hit the nail on the head there. It is so key to look at it and see what makes sense for your family, because your family is going to have a completely different situation than someone else's. That said, we'd love to meet with you. Thank you so much. On behalf of Jay Tyner, I'm Matt Landon. Thanks for listening.